spill every day for 470 years in order to reach the same amount that was spilled back in 1991, just to give you an idea of the size that it would take to do true damage. Not to say that we shouldn't do anything and that this isn't environmentally, this is a catastrophe, but I think people need to just kind of calm down. Of course, everyone's saying that now that there should be no offshore drilling, we need to pause on this, and Obama, of course, did say that he wants to put a pause on offshore drilling. But Marco Rubio, who I've been keeping an eye on in Florida, had some interesting things to say, and people were asking him and pressuring him, and he said there's going to be drilling off the coast of the United States. The fundamental question that has to be answered is, can you safely drill for oil in a way that something like this will never happen again and again? And you can't even begin to answer those questions until you figure out why this particular case happened, and I have not heard anyone say that you cannot safely drill for oil, because there are thousands and thousands of rigs drilling, even as we speak, every day, that are not leaking and that are not causing any ecological disaster. Another interview with Marco Rubio with Jason Matera on Human Events, they asked him about Arizona's immigration law, and Rubio was not really pleased with it initially. But he did change his mind a bit later on, and I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. You're listening to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. Back to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. Continuing with Marco Rubio and some things he said about the Arizona illegal immigration law. He had some concerns with it the first time around, but apparently some changes were made, and he said that this second one has, quote, hit the right note. He said he wanted to see these changes because he knew that people were concerned about forcing American citizens to have interaction with law enforcement in a way that wasn't appropriate, he said. And he thinks the changes that have been made improve it. Concerning what Arizona is facing, he said, with kidnappings, human trafficking, drug wars, rapes, and murders, he believes that he's okay with this law. He was asked by Jason Matera, are you in favor of creating a path for citizenship for the millions who are here? And Marco Rubio replied, well, we have a path for citizenship. It's called coming legally into this country. I think the more Marco Rubio says, the more I like him. I just got to get past this back waxing thing. Also, I came across a great law, one of the strictest laws in the world regarding illegal immigration. And here it is. This law ensures that foreign visitors and immigrants are in the country legally, have the means to sustain themselves economically, are not destined to be burdens on society, of economic and social benefit to society, of good character, and have no criminal records, and contributors to the general well-being of the nation. This law also ensures that immigration authorities have a record of each foreign visitor. Foreign visitors do not violate their visa status. They are banned from interfering in the country's internal politics. I like that one. Foreign visitors who enter under false pretenses are imprisoned or deported or sent to jail. Foreign visitors violating the terms of their entry are also imprisoned or deported. And those who aid in illegal immigration will be sent to prison also. Where does this immigration law come from? This is Mexico's immigration law. You can see it online. Just look up Mexico's constitution, and they list it very specifically. Interesting. Also, regarding things going on in this country, the FCC is pushing this broadband net neutrality, and it's kind of sneaky because anywhere you look about net neutrality, it sounds nice, it sounds wonderful. They're worried about the big companies controlling the sites you visit, and if conceivably you could go to one site that has a show, but your server has another show on a different network, and they're competitors, so they would make it difficult for you to browse the internet. The problem is that's never really happened. Net neutrality has been around by itself just through the way the markets work and the way the internet works. It's already neutral pretty much. The markets have pretty much taken care of any issues. However, that's not enough for the FCC. Susan Crawford, former special assistant to President Obama, says that under the Bush administration, the FCC deregulated high-speed internet. That's actually not true. They're saying that so they can claim that they have to push this new effort with net neutrality, but it's actually not true. The thing about net neutrality is most people believe it's basically just a backdoor to the fairness doctrine, which they tried to push in the 90s. which will begin censoring the sites that the government does not agree with. So the question has to be, regarding net neutrality, who do we want to control, to be in charge of the natural process of making sure that that is fair? Who do we trust with that? Do we trust the free market, or do we trust the United States government? Because the United States government just does things so well, especially the FCC. Think of the Janet Jackson debacle. An interesting thing, the biggest backer of the whole net neutrality push is an organization called Free Press. And their motto, Free Press's motto, is reform media, transform democracy. Doesn't that sound kind of vaguely familiar? Another thing about broadband, and they seem to be concerned that they'll say not enough people have it, and we got to get out to these rural areas and make everything fair. But broadband, there were only 10% of users in broadband back in 2000. 2009, we had 70% have broadband without any government intervention there. Even with dial-up, 70% had dial-up back in 2000, and only 10% have it now. So you can see that we don't need the government's involvement with the internet. They're trying to call it a utility, and that the FCC has the right to take it over. Basically, I just see it as a library. I don't see the FCC running libraries. So we'll see where that goes. Interesting story on Yahoo. Stuart Fox is a science writer for lifescience.com. This article is on Yahoo about the ozone layer. What's most comical about this article is he goes on to explain about, remember the whole big fear about the hole in the ozone layer back in the 80s. Actually, they started this whole scare in 1975. There's a hole in the ozone layer, we're all going to die. It's actually not a hole, it was a thinning over the South Pole, and of course that led to this whole banning aerosols and the whole movement to start being more aware of pollution. The hole did heal. Of course, this science writer claims it healed because of these bans on aerosols, and that it has healed itself. But apparently another one has formed now over the North Pole. But what's most interesting about this article was that because that ozone hole closed up, it actually increased global temperatures. So now we've closed this ozone layer because we were polluting so much, so we had to cut back, and now we closed it. But now we've increased the temperature of the Earth, thus creating global warming. You see the cycle. You see how ridiculous it all is. This guy kind of contradicted himself through the whole article because he concluded in this article saying that laws have successfully reversed the trend of ozone depletion, but the lingering effects of aerosol use and the link between the ozone hole and global warming ensure that the problem will persist till the end of the century. Yeah, the link is that we can't control anything that's going on up there in the ozone, and whatever we do apparently may be creating the reverse effect we want. It all is really frightening and just complete hogwash to me. And that was Stuart Fox of lifescience.com. He's a scientist. He knows what he's talking about. Another more comical story that came out that I found when I was reading this story. A recent study in New Zealand found that global warming appears to be impacting and increasing the nature of symptoms experienced by obsessive-compulsive disorder patients. Climate change-related obsessions were identified in nearly a third of patients who have OCD. Their obsessions include leaving taps on and wasting water, turning the lights off, worrying about wasting electricity, pets dying of thirst, leaving stoves on and wasting gas and electricity, obsessions that global warming has contributed to their floors cracking or their pipes leaking and roof problems and the ants in their house. And the compulsions in response to these obsessions lead them to see psychiatrists, and they're diagnosed with OCD. So this author, Dr. Merwin Jones of New Zealand, has said media coverage about the possible catastrophic consequences to our planet concerning global warming is extensive and extremely anxiety-provoking. It's potentially dangerous. We found that many OCD patients were so concerned they were ruining their lives. So way to go, global warming extremists. Nothing like adding more grief to those who need some help. You've been listening to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. Coming up next, Brian O'Neill with Connections. He'll be talking with Senator George Winter and Chemung County Democratic Chairwoman Cindy Emmer.